Hello, and welcome back to another fun-filled episode of the Hammercast. I am your host, Alex, the Hebrew Hammer Salkin, and joining me today is the man, the myth, the legend, Josh Wang. He was preening his hair. If you're listening to this on like iTunes or whatever, you couldn't see it, but in the YouTube video, you may be able to see it. He was prepped and ready to go. He is a man of serious preparation and does not take it lightly. We are going to be talking about some of his forays into his training from the past, as well as some of the programs of mine that he has done, because he's got some pretty cool stories. He's seen some pretty cool results, and he's a cool guy. So I want to share it with the hammerheads. That seems like it's only the right and moral and upstanding thing to do. So we are going to do that. And but before we do that, I always have to pose a question. Josh probably knows because he's listened to many of these podcasts. He knows what the question's going to be.
Many.
And I'm going to let you pose the question, and then I will take it from there. What is the question going to be?
Dear friends, are you on the Hebrew Hammer email list? If you are not, you are doing yourself a disservice. Head on over to alexsalkin.com, subscribe, get into that Facebook hidden hideaway. You will not regret it.
Dang, you know what? Honest to God, we did not rehearse that at all. He came up with a better one than I had, because mine's always very, very verbose. It takes like a minute to get through. That was like 15 seconds to the point, precise. That's the engineer in you. You're looking for the ways to keep things precise.
Get rid of all the fluff.
Exactly. I like it. I'm going to have you write my scripts from now on. That was very good. Well, Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Now, if you'll notice, he's speaking in somewhat hushed tones because his adorable little baby has just been put to sleep, and he does not want to, and understandably does not want to possibly put the kibosh on that. So he's not in a library or anything like that, in case you were. He's in a library of strength. I mean, he's got a lot of really great strength tools in the background there.
This is probably the only library in our house. There's our current collection of books.
I like it.
And across this door is another door that leads to my 17-month-old son sleeping away. He just got put asleep about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, so he's probably on his way down into the REM stage of sleep. So we've still got some time, but you never know how long that'll last. So, well, I'm excited to have you on here because I have had you. I've seen a lot of the progress that you've posted in the Hebrew Hammer's Hidden Hideaway. We've interacted on a number of different occasions, and this is the first time that we're going to actually dig into the origin story. So before we go back to like the beginning, let's start off with now. So who are you? What do you do? What are your interests? Who is Josh Wang? And then we're going to go back and we will reconstruct it from the relevant beginnings.
All right, thanks, Alex. This is actually my first podcast ever. I'm really excited. I've always wanted to be on a podcast. I'm a huge podcast fan, so thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Making dreams come true here at the Hammercast.
One Hammercast at a time.
Exactly.
Boom. So I'm a husband and father first, but I'm also an engineer and a coach. I wouldn't say a coach like the way you are, but I really like health and fitness and helping people. And I spend a lot of time at the computer or working on engineering stuff. And a way to scratch my itch to help people is through a bit of the work you do, like coaching and helping people on the side. And I love helping people. So I spent a bit of time getting a few certifications just so I would know what I'm doing, just so I'm not hurting anyone.
Good.
That's probably about 5% of my time. Most of my time, I'm trying to look at transportation challenges in our area, looking at future projects and trying to sell our new projects to our decision makers. I am a minion in the system. I think I'm a decent minion at that, but I just provide advice to decision makers and they do with it as they will. I've done it. Wait, you're asking about the programs now too that I've done?
Well, actually, I'm liking where you're going right now because we can get to that later. But I like to know the man behind the programs, and so this is good. You work. I'm assuming is it in local government for the?
Yes. So I live in a place called the York Region. We are just north of Toronto, and it's a multi-tier municipality. So there's different cities, and then there's a region, and then we have a province. And of Ontario, and that's part of Canada. For our neighbors
Americans
down
who are not
south,
familiar with geography.
Americans or Europeans or anyone who's not local. I live in
Sure.
a small town called Stouffville. You've probably not heard of it if you've if you're
I
not
have
local to the
actually,
area.
because you tag it very regularly in the Facebook
well,
posts. So
well,
that's how I know.
all right, for Stouffville, that's
Absolutely.
fantastic. I love it. So that's where I live. We're currently working from home since the shutdown of the pandemic, but yeah, I do work for the local government. I work in transportation services. A lot of the work I do is looking at long-term planning. So all the roads and transit projects that we are looking for in 10 to 20 years, we need to get money, we need to get funding. So we look at all the forecasting, the business cases, all the designs, the preliminary concepts, we look at the before and after studies, and then we have to present all the data so that people with the signing authority can say, yeah, that's a great idea. So we can secure the funding, get the projects approved, and get them rolling, because they can't just, a new road doesn't just pop up tomorrow. You need a
Mm.
lot of plans, you need to hire the contractors, you make sure that the designs are good and that the construction is done well. So there's a lot of lead time, and we are in the early stages of planning. So anywhere between 10 to 20 years down the road, those are kind of the projects that I work on.
I just want to point out for the listeners, if you've never seen Mission Impossible 3, Tom Cruise, or Ethan Hunt as he's known in the movie, his cover story is also that he's a transportation specialist in like LA or something like that. So I'm starting to think that maybe Josh might be more secret agent type, and he's been sandbagging us this whole time. He's jacked. He wears black
I
shirts. He
can't confirm or deny.
All right. Well, that's good enough for me. My
When
mind
I
is made up.
first saw that, when I first saw Mission Impossible 3, I was so stoked because I could finally relate to it, because I've always wanted to be a secret agent. That was
Well,
secret agent or an astronaut or like something intense.
you and me both,
Um,
because I have it took me a while actually to see all of the Mission Impossible movies. I had seen the first one. Yeah, I was like
yes.
young, so I didn't appreciate it. Loved the second one. And
Oh
then
yeah.
I never saw the third one. I saw the fourth one and then the fifth one. And then this year I finally caught up and I watched the sixth one. And then I think I was on the way to Australia. I finally caught the third one. And I was like, I don't know why people talk trash about this. This was like a really good one. Like I liked it a lot. But a lot of people consider it like, not the best in the series. And I couldn't have disagreed more. So I'm glad that we're on the same page with that.
And honestly, I'm probably biased because it's featuring a transportation engineer figure.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm also not very good with saying yes to whatever the media says. So whatever movies that may be rated, critics will say, "Oh, I don't know. If it makes me feel good, if I enjoy it, if I have a good experience." I don't have a lot of film nuances, and I don't understand all the like any of the Marvel movies, for example. I love because it's super fun. There's a lot of exploding things.
Yeah.
Storylines aren't that great sometimes, but it's fun, and I have a good time. So
Yeah.
it's, I mean, I'm very easy to please when it comes to movies.
Yeah. No, you got to go in it with the right expectations. My friend Pat Flynn talks about this all the time. He's like, if you go
Mm.
into the movie like Venom, for example, with Tom Hardy, like if you're going in and you're thinking that you're gonna get like an Oscar worthy like role or like just an incredible storyline, you're gonna be disappointed. But if you go in and you're like it's me, Tom Hardy, and this totally made up alien thing that engulfs him, then you should be able to appreciate it. There
Oh
are
yeah.
certain movies that are very popular that I just can't get into, like the Marvel movies, for example. Just in contradistinction, this is not to talk trash about them, because I think that it's very clear that it has really reached like I don't want to say like a nerve, because it seems like it's got a negative connotation, but it's like touched something uh, in the psyche of people who grew up watching like Marvel comic like TV shows like Spider-Man and Superman and whatever. I was more of a Batman dude, so I geeked
Oh
out about
nice.
the Dark Knight trilogy. Like for
Oh, that
me,
was good. That
that's
was good.
exactly. But that's the thing, is I think even Marvel fans will agree that the Dark Knight trilogy is like amazing. And I love. Well, I have to say I loved the first and second Iron Man. I don't think I saw the third one. So I think I caught them, and then I never kept up with anything else. And now there's like so many movies like within this universe that when I was this was probably like 2.5 years ago now, when what was it? It was the Infinity War when that was coming out. I
Yeah.
I was gonna go see it with some friends, and I was taking an Uber there, and the guy was like, the guy who asked where I was going, and I told him, oh, I'm gonna go see Infinity War. He's like, and then he mentioned something else about he's like, oh, are you excited because of X, Y, and Z? I'm like, actually, I've only seen maybe like 2 or 3 of the Marvel movies. Like, dude, you're not gonna understand any of this. And I was like, yeah, dude, this is gonna be like about 2.5 hours of like enjoying the explosions and like the drama, but not really understanding the deeper part of it. So I feel like maybe a Marvel marathon is in order.
Well, if you don't mind a lot of these marathons and you don't mind sitting through all that, there's a lot of plot lines and twists. I've had to watch Infinity War and Endgame a few times and always picking up a different detail. Um, yeah, it's pretty fun. I mean, it's not for everyone, but I enjoy it.
Endgame is the one that comes after Infinity War, right?
Yeah.
That's the one like after Thanos, like spoiler alert, snaps and then like half the universe disappears. Okay, I want to make sure because sometimes I get them mixed up, and I don't want to be like the old guy who's saying like things wrong. I still fancy
Mm.
myself to be quite a young dude, but I knew when I was younger, my parents would make the wrong movie reference or whatever, you would cringe. So Marvel fans, if I don't get it, just be patient. Um, but anyhow, back to what we were talking about. Josh is a secret agent, but he's keeping it a secret. I think that's what we have decided on. Um,
Let's go with that.
yeah, I don't know what his code name is, but but I do know that he is definitely physically up for the task because he is in tremendous shape. And I'm always curious whenever I talk to people who are busy professionals, fathers, uh, husbands, who are in really, really good shape. What is your origin story behind? Speaking of Marvel, right? What is your origin story behind fitness? Because everyone seems to have like very few people, unless you're getting into it later in life, start off one place and then end up diametrically opposed. But it seems like the people who've done it for a very long time started off maybe in one direction and went either completely in the opposite, or they went into like a niche direction. And the story behind that is always fascinating to me.
Okay, so I will try the origin story. All right, so I I grew up wanting to be a doctor. I was a math nerd, a science geek. I loved to play chess. I played a lot of music. I grew up with exercise-induced asthma, so as much as I wanted to run or keep up with friends, I'd always be last on the team. Never really picked. I was not really physically fit. Physical fitness wasn't really my avenue. I played violin, viola, piano. Like music was my escape, and I just found ways to express myself in the musical community, and I had a lot of fun there. Um, in university, I was still physically unfit. I still really didn't really know how to do anything, and then I kind of joined a dragon boat team. I thought that would help me get fitter, and faster. And I was also the slowest person. The breathing was really labored and hard, and I was like, I don't think I'll ever get over this. And then I took a co-op as part of my engineering program. And oh yeah, I chose engineering. Took a co-op in Seattle, working for a consulting firm, working on intelligent transport systems. It's very Tom Cruise stuff, I think. And I didn't really think about my fitness. I had Cougar Mountains in my backyard. I walked around downtown Seattle, walked everywhere, and it was hills up and down. I went for a jog just around the mountains, which happened to have a ton of hills. I went down 2 miles to get my groceries from Fred Meyer's. I think that's what it's called in the States. And then I walked 2 miles up with my groceries. I didn't really think about it too much. But then when I came back from a year and a half or a year and a quarter, so I didn't really know this at the time, but it's pretty much all our original strength resets there. When I came back from my internship, I just, I was like, all right, whatever. I mean, oh, they A for effort. I'll just show up for the injectable team again, and I was really fast. I wasn't fast, but I held my own with a lot of people. I was able to push myself and push them, and I eventually became a coach there. I came across CrossFit, and this was in 2008 in its infancy. And I think my origin story in fitness would be a lot of CrossFit. I spent a lot of time doing CrossFit. Um, I, for me, that's when exercise became fun. It's when exercise became not about trying to keep up with people, but just about being a community. And so I think the one thing CrossFit did really well is foster community, and that was good for me. The problem for me was that I was spending a lot of time, like all my time, at the CrossFit gym. I'd work out, I'd train, I'd hang out, I'd train some more. I was younger, so I could get away with a lot more. I'd had a few injuries, from a failed deadlift, failed muscle up, shoulders, low back, doing dumb things. So that's, and then I would, eventually want to help people. And then I think that's how I eventually got into coaching, because I had so much fun and I wanted to help others as well. So I took a couple certifications just so I knew what I was doing. So I'm not, injuring people and saying, oh, looks fun. And, you can have good intentions, but you can also hurt people if you're not sure what you're doing. And then I just stumbled my way into the world of kettlebells. And I found that to be a different way of training, it's very, very interesting. And then I actually heard about you through Piers Kwan in Queensland Kettlebells. My wife and I, because I can talk a lot about all the other random things I've done, or played around with, but back to the hammer. My wife and I went for a little honeymoon to Australia, because my brother did some schooling there, and we went to visit him for his convocation. We turned it into a little honeymoon. And so I was looking at local gyms, and I happened to stay in Queensland, and I was like, all right, kettlebell gym. And there's a lot of different places. And I kind of look at the people, and I'm like, oh, this guy, strong first, level 2. That's legit. And then original strength. What's that? I go to Piers, I go to his class, and it's a half an hour class. And we start the class lying on the ground, like, and, coming from CrossFit, it's like, all right, quick warm up, and let's hit our WOD, right? I'm like, all right, I guess I'll just lie down here and get magically strong. And it turns out it's not voodoo magic. It's, as I delved into the system of the human developmental system, I started diving and chewing up all of Tim Anderson's stuff. I was like, oh, this is really, really interesting to like do way less to achieve so much more. I'm like, as an engineer, I'm always looking for high leverage activities, for things that you put like 1 unit in and get 10 units back, right? It's very interesting. So then I was like, all right, thanks. He was super kind, let me train and play around for about a week and a half when I was there. And then I just kind of kept in touch and following what he was doing. And then I heard about this guy named Alex Salkin, who was giving seminars there. I was like, who the hell is this? And Piers was like, this guy's amazing, awesome seminar. I'm like, okay, let's go check this guy out. And then I just went to your website and I read every single article that you wrote. I was like, oh man, this guy is super legit. And then I realized you also wrote stuff for Strong First, and I follow them. I'm not Strong First certified. I have my kettlebell stuff through a company called Agatsu, but I know a lot about Strong First, and I have a high degree of respect for a lot of the practitioners and their system and way of thinking. So I'm a Strong First enthusiast from afar. But I was just reading, I was like, oh, this is super cool, super neat. And so early last year, 2020, before the pandemic, actually, when I was on paternity leave, I was waiting for a program to come out from Original Strength, because I was going to try one for the first time. And they had some delays because of the pandemic. And I came across I don't know how I got onto your email list or something, but you had something called the Gatrix. I think it was the Gatrix. No, sorry. It was before the Gatrix. It was the 20 minute. No. I didn't make the February, and I regret that with all my heart.
It'll be coming back. Don't feel too bad.
I look forward to it. But I was, it was your 2020, your 8-week program.
Oh, sure.
And, and so I was like, all right, that's how I subscribe. Because after reading all your articles, I was like, all right, I'll subscribe. I get your free 8-week program. I was like, oh, this is simple. And this is very easy. And I started to get benefits from that. And then you released the Gatrix. And I started reading your email copy. It was just really entertaining to read. It was very practical, very useful. and you delivered like a lot of useful free stuff. And so I was like, all right, if he's going to sell this for like a few bucks and it's going to have a high yield, again, I'm looking for small input for a big return. I
Mm-hmm.
find that all your programs, you could be probably charging way more. A lot of your free stuff you could probably be charging for, but I've been getting so much value beyond, and the bonuses themselves are really amazing. So, guys, I said this earlier in the beginning. If you're not on Alex's email list or you're not following him, at least give it a shot. You're doing yourself a favor. If you like strength, if you like high yield training activities, it's gonna be worth your while. So that's how I kind of found my way through fitness and kind of to where I'm training right now.
I love it. That's a great story. And I am flattered that Piers said such nice things and that you believed him, because, he's kind of a rapscallion. You never really know with that guy. And Piers, if you're listening, please do not kill me. It was a joke. Um, yeah, no, I'm especially happy to hear that you feel you get so much out of it, because, for me, that's like my number one thing is I want people to, I don't charge like insane prices, but I think they're a bit higher than what a lot of other people charge. But when they buy something, I want them to think like, damn, like I totally should have paid way more for what I got. I want people to feel like they're getting like kind of, I would, again, like the small input, like high output, like a relatively small amount of money for the kind of like in-depth information that they're getting. So I'm very happy to hear that. And like I said before, February has not disappeared entirely. It will be making another return. Can't give away too many details. We got to leave, obviously some
Yeah, suspense for later.
surprises for 2021, but it will return. Um, well, that's very cool. I'm also very happy to hear that you liked my articles so much, because I always wonder if people actually read them on the website, and you've read them all, so that's great. I'll have a bunch more coming out, so you can be sure of that.
Excellent.
Now, the now here's the next thing that I want to know, because you just mentioned the Gatrix and all the bonuses and everything like that. You had already had like some fitness, but like under your belt. I wasn't like the first guy to introduce it to you. So what kind of stuff did you notice when you did the Gatrix in terms of your strength, your fitness, your resilience, and things like that?
So I've never marched before. Um, and I was like, I've done lunges. Yeah, I've done lunges. Like I've done like 100 walking lunges with a weighted vest. I've done my body weight, like 185 on a barbell for 100 reps. Like I've done lunges. I get, in one plane, sagittal plane. But I didn't think about lunging in the cross pattern with the cross crawl. I didn't think about the value of just simply marching and walking. And when I dive into like the science behind why marching is so powerful, something so simple, I was like, what? Like you're getting your shoulder into extension, you're working on your T-spine rotation, you're activating your hamstrings, your vestibular system with that cross-body pattern. I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting, because it's very low impact, very low effort, very high yield, right? And I was like, oh, this is so useful. And it was like 4 minutes or 7 minutes. I was like, I can do this while my coffee is brewing. And my mind was exploding with all, because as a dad, this was like, I was like not getting sleep. I was trying to like figure out this, parent to leave, and then back from like parental leave, and then back at work, and then being sent home because of COVID, and then being promised to come back. There's a lot of, and I was like trying to find some kind of routine. It was hard for me to always block off a half an hour, an hour, but I could commit to 5 minutes while my coffee was brewing. I was like, oh, that's the power, because these micro or these mini workouts that have a high yield, like I just put my son Leo, or Leonidas, to sleep. And I was like, all right, I have 15 minutes. I got the crawl days. So I started crawling, and I got it done, and I feel really good. And that's another program that if you guys don't have, is it too late? It's probably too late, but get it next year.
I'm going to give them the Josh Wang special. If they email me in enough time, I
Guys,
will very
do, your,
graciously make it
do yourself a
available.
favor, email Alex for crawl days. It's not that expensive, especially for what you're going to get out of it. It's very useful. I don't know if I have any credibility, or Alex, just do it. I'm not gonna
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Much appreciated.
It's very useful.
Yeah, and you're only a couple days in, but I'll tell you, man, when you get to day 30, so the people who are listening, if you're not familiar with Crawl Days, it's a 30-day program, and the premise is you crawl for a total of 10 minutes every day, and as the days go by, you're moving up to different variations that get a little bit more challenging, and so you're building a lot more strength, you're building a lot more resilience, a lot more coordination, your conditioning improves, and it's a total of 10 minutes. So it may take you a little longer than 10 minutes to get it in, but you make very quick adaptations, and people love the program. And this is like the third year I've done it, and it's always a huge hit because people are like, one thing I can do one thing, and I can do it for 10 minutes. And then when they're done, they find that there's so many other things that they can do as a result. Improving their squats, their presses, pull-ups, you name it. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing how you do at the end of it. I think you're going to see some big improvements.
Yeah, and I really like how you were saying that you can't really. I mean, crawling is tiring, but you're gonna get you should get more energy from crawling, and I found that really interesting because I mean I'm just starting out. As you mentioned, I'm on day 6. It's January 6th. I'm trying to follow the calendar, and I've just been doing primarily baby crawling, which I've never really done. I've done like the leopard crawls, like the Superman crawls, axial crawl as part of your other programs or just part of other workouts. But going against the wall or going slow or the way you describe it, man, my shoulders felt so good after baby crawling. And the other thing that I think people, it may not work for everyone, but it works for me. The lead up for all your programs, all the stories, your old school strength stories, or the reason why. For me, I think that's just as powerful as the actual program itself because it helps you understand why it's important and why you should stick with it. Right. So I think it's just as entertaining and as useful as the actual program itself. So
no, I'm glad that you like that, because I think if there's anything that people need to understand before they start any kind of an exercise program, it has to be an answer to the question why. And I think that if I can demonstrate to people, like, look, this is what people have been doing for ages, so this isn't anything new, this isn't like like a fad or anything like that, and it's not going to go away. But most importantly, it worked even in much worse conditions. Like if you can talk about people doing a particular type of training like the 1800s, where it was like food was more expensive, at lower quality, harder to find, life was hard for pretty much everybody, you were probably going to die pretty young, and you could still get strong with all that. It's like
yeah,
I mean, that's very powerful. So I'm glad that it's had that impact, because that's the one thing that I really want people to see, is that this stuff is not just like cool or new or interesting, but it's impactful. Like you said, it's a small input for a really big output.
yeah, high yield, very
High
high yield,
yield, exactly. High yield.
definitely.
Now, I think you mentioned also having done 300 at one point
Oh
in
my
your.
goodness, that is my absolute favorite workout. That was my first real program that I subscribed to and finished from you start to finish. So I started the 8-week program. That was the free one, and it was good. I was like, okay, this is great. I am going from a intense program to something something more manageable. And then the Gatrix came out, so I added the Gatrix. And then I don't know, you made the body weight 300 workout sound super epic. And I was like, oh, I gotta, like, it's 300. My son's name is Leonidas after the Spartan king of um, Thermopylae.
Yeah.
Oh, no, of Sparta from in the battle of Thermopylae.
Right.
So I was like, oh, this is so cool. I should at least try it. And all the promised gains, I was like, you know what? If I get even one of those, I should be good. And so I started doing all these exercises, hitting all these muscles I've never really felt before in my life. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I needed. And I was waking up with joint pains, and it was like, I mean, I was working out a lot and training. I was resting, I was recovering, I was eating, I was, feeling. But I also just had joint pain, and just really annoying because I just wake up sore. But that program was the first time in a long time especially the first time as a dad, where I woke up like feeling good. And I was like, wow, because I start off with the resets, which is, more powerful than you would think,
Mm-hmm.
or especially if you haven't been doing them before. And just the high reps, the type of exercises, the variety, And then of course, I dissected it, trying to understand your rep scheme and because I'm a part engineer, part coach. So I like to nerd out about it. And that also helps me get more engaged with the program. And that helps me really invest because I put so much effort writing it and analyzing your program. Like, okay, that's why it works. This is what's happening. Okay, I'm ready. Here. Okay, here's a backup week. Okay, this week's going to suck. Here we go. Right. So that helped me really kind of like, because I did it myself. And no, I had some of the best, like my massage therapist. He saw me like at the beginning of the program, and then like 4 or 5 weeks later, he's like, "Dude, you're thick." Like, and he sees people, and he like as a massage therapist, you're always seeing about people's bodies, and he's like, "Man, you put on some size." I may not look like much on the camera, but I'm a fairly skinny person, and it's been harder for me to put on like muscle. So when I heard of Gainsgiving, I got really stoked. But I know I'm getting ahead of myself. 300 was awesome. So I did your program 300. I really loved it.
I love it. And you know what? It's funny. I hadn't even made that connection. Like obviously the 300, the name was certainly like kind of a throwback to the movie because I loved that movie. And
Yeah.
And I heard you mention your son's name is Leonidas earlier, and I was thinking, oh, that's cool, like the movie 300. And then for whatever reason, like that, like the program itself has become such like a its own thing that I just like I neglected to remember the connection. So that's perfect. It was almost serendipitous, right? You're like,
Yeah.
I got a
Oh, for
son
sure.
named Leonidas. I have to do like a 300 workout. It would be insane not to. But I really love what you said about waking up feeling good and like your joints didn't hurt. And more than that, because people would love to wake up when the joints don't hurt, but they usually think it's either going to be wake up and joints don't hurt, but be strong, or I'm sorry, wake up and the joints hurt, but be strong, or wake up and the joints don't hurt, but not be nearly as strong as they want. And I remember one of the things you said in the conversation we had a few months ago was that it was that these programs, it was the first time that you not only moved better, but were also stronger. And it wasn't an either or proposition anymore. It was like a both and sort of a thing.
Yes. Yes, 100%. So this isn't the first time that I'm, coming across the idea of moving well and being strong. And I think, whether it's CrossFit with their mobility programs or some of the other kettlebell training that I've done, there's this idea of trying to be strong, supple, fast, flexible, all that stuff. But for me, I'm not trying to knock on any other program or say you're way better or not. But I mean, I think you're
Yeah,
pretty good.
there's definitely no trash talk on the program.
Right?
I
It's
can tell
just
that's not your intent.
definitely not. Like for me, because of just the nature of things, I just wanted to like go hard, or I wanted to push my body. I wanted to do things. Even though my coach would say, "Don't do this, don't do that," I would probably just sneak. I would do the program, and then I would do my own thing and all that. And with your program, I still did other things. But I wasn't beat up. I was your programs introduced me to the original strength and introduced me to other things, and I had a lot of buffer. So like I'm not trying to ruin myself by doing all this overtraining with all these other toys, but I had the buffer to like, if I missed an hour of sleep, or if, the baby was up late at night, or if things were just crazy at work, I could still get stronger. I could still get stronger with 10 minutes a day of like focused effort. And I think that's very similar to the concept of like, strong first, simple and sinister, or some other, programs, or just moving. But I think if I can get a lot, like I'm sure anyone, if they move, if you go for a 10-minute walk, you're going to get better than just 10 minutes of sitting. If you do 10 minutes of squats and walking, you probably get even better. But what kind of programs, activities can you do to maximize those 10 minutes? And so for me, I think I could start to get really strong with just 10 minutes. And when I started doing your program, you helped me think for myself. I mean, which I love, because it's not like do this. So I could be more intelligent about what I'm doing as well. So there's a lot I love about your program. I write my own programs for other people too, and I like to think about these things. So my mind likes to think about programming, and so I really love the way you lay things out, the way you think about things. It's in engineering, we have this term called, when we see something that's beautifully designed, but not too much things. It's elegant, right? It's not like there's not like a lot of like needless periodization. There's not a lot of like needless exercises. There's just the right amount of variety. It's elegant. It's very beautiful. So I was like, wow, this is awesome, and I got even more fired up to do it. I don't know what your original question was, but
That's whatever the question was. That was a great answer. So
okay,
you have
right
you
on.
hadn't actually answered it. You've more than answered it. No, but I'm really glad to hear what you said about feeling like you were able to think for yourself, because one thing that is extremely important in exercise is to realize that everything works and nothing works forever. And this is a Dan Johnism, so I can't even take credit for that. But he's absolutely right. Um, and more than that, everything has a context to it too. Like for example, I don't think there's any exercise, any movement, any drill that is indispensable, right? Except for maybe like breathing, because I think that's going to be important. You will breathe and all the way up until the day you die. And if you decide not to breathe, you will just choose to, hasten that day a little bit more than you probably should. But really, like whether it's pull-ups or, military presses or pistol squats, like these are all great movements, but none of them are necessarily like a requirement, meaning you have to be doing them at all times. And I think people fall into the trap when they start working on strength training of thinking that, look, if I'm not working on these things, I'm not really training. And so, the shoulders start to bother them, or the knee will kind of bug them. And the right amount of variety, the right amount of intensity, and the right amount of different complementary, and in some cases novel movements, in many cases I would say novel movements actually, is extremely important. But the most important thing is what you said, is being able to think for yourself, because now you're able to apply things intelligently that you learn for your students. And there's nothing more important than that, because if you're like, hey, this is like the the workout du jour, as it were, in the kettlebell world, and let's say swings and get-ups, well, if you've got somebody who's maybe a bit overweight and they're not, it's not easy for them to get off the ground, or they have a bad back and maybe swings are not a great idea, well, maybe you could have them do deadlifts, you can have them do loaded
100%.
carries, right? So so learning how to think and then problem solve is the ultimate in strength training. And to me, it sounds like there's a kind of a parallel between that and engineering. So you've got,
100%.
in engineering, it's a little more life and death for obvious reasons, but nevertheless, the parallel is there. And because you mentioned Gainsgiving, and this is one of the you completed more recently, I want to get some insight on this, because I was very impressed, and I'm not like I'm not super hard to impress kind of a guy, but your results, given the kind of busy lifestyle that you have, raising a very young son, being married, having a house, having a job, having spousal duties, having all these other different things, you made some really, really good progress in like 6 weeks. And I would love to dive into that a little bit, because this was, I think, your first true technical muscle building program with just kettlebells and body weight.
Yes.
And if I'm wrong, correct me by all means.
No, I'm trying to think. I've done some hypertrophy programs, but they were dumbbells, machines. Yeah, no, this is actually incredibly more interesting, all the more reason because of everyone being stuck at home, gyms not being available, and thinking, oh no, I can't build muscle, or I can't get strong, or I can't get fit. And, we can easily put each of those concerns to rest. If it comes to muscle building, now I picked up your program, Gainsgiving. Like usually when I see your programs, I'm like, okay, do I do it? Do I not? And with Crawler Days, it was like I was literally on the fence until the last day.
Because I want to just interrupt you real quick, because I am exactly the same. In fact, I'm doing an online biblical Hebrew course, because I speak modern Hebrew very well, but biblical Hebrew is I would say more like Shakespearean English, meaning it's comprehensible, but there are a lot of nuances that you don't have in modern Hebrew. And the guy on the phone, the salesman on the phone, he was like, do you want to do the next level when this one's over, like halfway through the semester? I'm like, listen, the answer is yes, but I like to wait to the last minute. So realistically, like, how long can I wait before I make this, before I make the decision? So you and I are like, we're kindred spirits in that regard. And it's
Oh,
funny you should say that, because that literally just happened like a few hours ago that I got this call. And that was the first thing I could think of to say. I wasn't planning it. I was just like, I know me, and I know that I need like a pressing deadline, and then I will take action. And that's what's going to drive the decision.
yeah, 100%. And I think each time you send a new email, each time there's a new review about it on the Hebrew Hammer, I'm like, okay, let's add in more information. I'm kind of doing my mental benefit cost
Sure.
analysis. Not to say that there isn't the return on investment, but every time I make a purchase, my wife and I also decided to combine our finances on a software. So now she's like, who's this Alex Salkin guy? And she's been asking that more often now. I'm like, okay, well, do you like what you see? She's like, yes. I'm like, all right, then.
That's the
So
guy. Okay, good. So she's not going to wring my neck for
no.
convincing you to.
She's pretty happy with the results.
Good.
Yeah, there's no complaints in that department. Um, Gainsgiving, yeah. So Gainsgiving was my first hypertrophy program where you're trying to. The goal is to build muscle, and I loved how you started out by explaining like the intent, because you think about hypertrophy and trying to get volume, but the real factor is there's different ways to build it. You can add load, you can increase time under tension, you can increase volume, you can increase the angle and mechanical advantage or disadvantage. And there's so many variables you can play with, and that makes you it just makes it a lot easier. So with the program, I stuck with, some of the, I didn't really do too much variation between the different exercises. Cause for me, I needed it pretty simple. And it was 3 days a week. And the hardest part for me actually was to rest, because you told me to rest. And I think I rested for for most of the program. I think week 5, I was like, I'll try to throw in, and that's the worst week to try
Yeah.
to throw in some kettlebell sport. But again, I had enough buffer in there to realize that things weren't completely lost. But yeah, I was pretty happy with it. Like I think I think I was pretty busy. I would sneak in my workouts. I would try to hit it the mornings. Mornings would never always work, so I'd try it the afternoon over lunch. So I think half my workouts were at lunch. I just take an extended lunch break, and because my son is now at daycare, and then I would just work later at night when my son's asleep. Um, and the other half of my workouts are, I'll try to do Zoom catch-ups with some friends. I was like, all right, guys, you want to do 30 lunges with me? All right, just grab your kettlebells and just go nice and slow with me, all right? Because honestly, your workouts suck, especially the day 2 workouts with, because I was doing them with double racked kettlebells, and it's at tempo, 20 reps. I've never really done tempo reps, anything past maybe 7 or 8 reps of like tempo. Doing 20 reps, double rack lunges sucks so hard. Like, man, everything sucked. So it was definitely helpful to have some peer pressure for some of those workouts. Um, and then yeah, and then my wife was pretty supportive as well. I had to include her as well. But it was just on the other days when I'm not training, I felt good. I was just doing a few of the resets, and then maybe a dead bug challenge or a crawl days challenge, and I'm just moving, feeling good, and that was good. I had the rest. I wasn't training 5-6 days a week. I was 3 days. I was in and I was out. So that was pretty good. I was able this time around to get most of the workouts done at once. Sometimes I'd be, I'd put Leo to sleep, run down, start my workout, and then my wife has this little date night thing with me. So I'd be watching TV with her while I'm doing my accessory work. So I'd be doing bicep curls or hamstring curls on the fitness ball while we're watching TV, just to get all my accessory work in with tempo. Because then I'm there with her as well, so I can fulfill my husband. Okay, I mean my joyful. Anyways, I don't
Joyful
think my
spousal
wife.
duties. Exactly.
Exactly. I don't think my wife's
Joyful spousal privileges. We'll say that. That sounds even more. Yeah.
privileges. A lifesaver. Thank you.
Yes.
So I think 300 though. Back to that other program, I was half that time I was doing them in chunks. I would do like some in the morning. I would do some in the afternoon. I would just get it done when I could. And I think the way your programs are designed kind of allow for that. I mean, with hypertrophy, you want to try to get as much density as possible,
Yeah.
as much, but life happens. And I think that's one of the benefits of your programs, that they're done in blocks. They are simple enough to like understand. And the resets kind of warm you up for the entire day, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really big on getting in the warm up because, so many, we don't live in the kind of, in the kind of environment anymore where it's like you're getting in incidental movement all the time, like my friend Sarah Smith likes to call it middle movement, which would be like, gardening or doing some work around the house or maybe working on your car, like stuff that like things that are physical activities, but they're not structured the way that exercise is, where it's like really regimented and, and like very, it has to be done exactly like this for this many sets of reps. It's somewhat unstructured. And I think that you get
100%.
a nice middle ground with the original strength resets, because not only are they movements that you're made to do and that help to keep you healthy, but they're also the kind of movements that that give you that middle movement, because you don't have to do like, okay, I'm going to do 3 sets of 10 rocks and then I'm going to, it's like just do it, so it feels good, and then move on to the next thing. You can put reps on it if you really want to, but it's like you don't have to get as nitty gritty with it. And so it just takes a load off your mind, because you don't feel like now I need this mental bandwidth to be like jammed into this one activity. It has a huge impact, high yield, and like
Yes.
very low drain mentally and physically.
High yield, I think, is the theme of the message, the theme of this
Absolutely.
podcast.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah. I never realized also, on a side note, how important breathing was. Um, I would just roll out of my bed and fall flat on my face, do crocodile breathing on my bed. I was like, all right, I don't want to lay in bed. I just like, all right, I want to sleep still, but I'll like sleep this way, and I'll start breathing like, all right, 10 breaths, and then I'm gonna get up. Um, yeah, and then just in general, like breathing. Yeah, breathing's very useful. Breathing's very useful. I
Yeah.
don't
And
want to. I don't
I
want to
think
ramble too long.
no, but I think you're absolutely right about that, because so many people are just like, oh, as long as I'm respiring, right, that's good enough, right? And I mean, that's obviously that's the base. You need to be able to do that. And if you can't, you got to take a breather for sure. But being able to control your breathing, it's one of those few functions in our body that we can both, that is both voluntary and involuntary. Meaning we're going to do it one way or the other. But if you can really control it, you can control a lot of stuff. And it's amazing. We can have than usual, because you're not going to be adding top of stress. You'll be adding.
They're like better. And shit, we're not Olympic athletes. We're not trying to crush ourselves. We're not trying to. This isn't like a party where we're trying to my wife. I want to be able to, chase after him when he's like, one of my goals. My big goal is to chase down my son when he's 20. He's currently a year and a half, in about a week or two. But I want to chase him down when he's 20. I mean, obviously he's going to have a faster learning curve, but I have a 20-year head start, thanks to you. And I'm going to be, doing original strength more than he is right now. And I won't be where he is when he's 20, but I'll hold my own. And I see a lot of old dads who, like, some of them are like, frail or tired or just sitting down the couch and just hanging out. Like, not a knock on them or I think, because they're probably super smart and handy. But there's other dads where when you shake their hand, they're like, oh, dang, these guys have seen the world, right? And I want to be able to like hang with my son and keep him
On his
chasing
toes.
after something. Yeah, keep on his toes for a while.
Absolutely.
Not just past 12.
No,
So
absolutely. I think that's a great goal, is to be able to be in the game with your kid and not on the sidelines, because
yeah,
I remember, my parents we were very physically active growing up. Like we had, like, there was exercise equipment in the basement. We would do a lot of outdoors activities. And so there was always like physical activity in my life ever since I was little. But my dad, for instance, used to be, he owned a body shop. So he did a lot of mechanic work and stuff like that.
it's awesome.
Yeah. And he was, he's always been a very slight guy, but he was very strong. Like he would carry like 2 engine blocks, across this warehouse of a thing that he had. But like it takes a toll on you after a while. And so like there were certain things that growing up, I always kind of thought like, man, am I going to be like that? He's not like decrepit, and so I'm not talking trash about him or my mom or anything like that. But I know exactly what you mean, because I was able to kind of see both angles of it. I was able to see, you know, the importance of physical activity, because my parents, we would always do, like I said, a lot of outdoors activities, things of that nature. But I could also see, it looks like maybe being older might be rough sometimes, because you got back issues, or your knee bugs you and stuff like that. And some of those may be unavoidable, but I think most of them are under our control, at least to some degree, how much they affect us. Like if you got a herniated disc, it's probably not going anywhere. It doesn't mean that you have to writhe in pain every single day. You should still be able to get back to full function. And like I said, give your kids a run for their money for as long as you possibly can. Let them know who's boss.
Speaking of herniated discs, I think I may have had one like about a year back, and just about an hour ago, my back seized up again, and I couldn't walk. And I was lying there, and I had to put Leo to sleep in about 20 minutes. Like, no word of a lie. I was like, dang, this is weird. I'm about to talk to Alex about how awesome his programs are, and just I'm gonna be like decrepit. So I was like, all right. I just sat there and I started breathing. I breathed into the areas of tightness. Instead of like looking left and right, instead of rolling. I was like, all right, I can do this. And then I was like, all right, this is really hard. I couldn't get up. I was like frozen. And this has happened only once in my life before, last August. And I was stuck in a stairwell, and I really couldn't move. And it was literally, I think I remember it was like your Turkish get up program. I was like, all right. I was like, years, and just getting up was pain for me, because like I have other back issues that it's not probably worth getting to this podcast, but it seized up a lot, and everything just kind of tightened up, and I was like, oh man, this really sucks. But I started to roll back and forth. Like it was very partial rolls, and I started breathing, like just paused. All the kind of details that you actually, like I was practicing with your programs. I was using to kind of almost rehab. I was like, this is interesting. It may not work, but it might work. And in about 20 minutes, I was like, all right, I can get up. And I was not very mobile, but I could walk. I was like, okay, I don't have to carry Leo yet. He can walk up himself. And then after his bath, I was like, all right, here it goes. And then I was like, I picked him up. I did a kneeling windmill. I was like, all right, so far so good. Handed him over to my wife after. She took care of him. And I was like, all right, crawl-a-days. Let's see what we got here. It starts with a leopard crawl. And normally I'm pretty good at crawling. I think I am decent. I'm not great, but I can crawl with my knees off the ground, but I couldn't crawl with my knees off the ground. I was like, all right. So I just held the crawl, and I did the baby crawls, which I could do, but it was still painful. By the third round, it wasn't very smooth, but I could crawl with my knees off the ground. I don't know. This is completely, like, I'm not sure it's related, but I was like, man, this is. I mean, I'm probably not healed, but like I'm like for me, like I love to be able to like Turkish get up, half my body weight, and press all that stuff. But if I can't even get up and be there for my son, like what's the point? And so, I mean, it's this is pretty awesome. Like to be able to like still move and to move around. Like this position usually hurts my back quite a bit, but I'm not saying like you magically healed me, because I still have my own a lot of ailments and issues, and
for sure
pain from just sitting and doing this all day for like 10 plus years. That just no matter how much you exercise, an hour a day, 3 hours, you're still going to have dysfunction and imbalances. But the original strength is definitely a high yield effort for, like, especially like it's not just physical, it's also like vestibular and neural, and it's really useful. So
big time. I like you pointing that out, that the crawling part of things really seemed to help. I mean, you started exactly right. Just a deep breathing, moving the head around, doing some rolling. And but the big takeaway that people should have here is that the more that you move the way that you were made, the more you'll be able to move the way that you're capable of moving. And a lot of people like to think of you know, I don't know, have grandiose ideas of what the program is going to do for them or what have you. But, whether it's 6 weeks or 12 weeks or, however long it may be, it will end at some point. But habits are the important thing. And,
Yes.
it's one thing, moving program to program is great, but you'll always have to move like a human first and foremost before you can move a kettlebell or before you can move a barbell. And the more that remains the base of your training, the easier it's going to be to overcome things like that. And I don't know how you herniated your disc. It sounds like it must have been. This was prior to any of my programs? Is something like an old injury, or
Yes.
is this like
Yes. Yes. Yes.
okay?
Yes.
So stuff
Many,
like
ma-
this
yeah,
many
many,
years ago.
yeah, 2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago. Yeah, I've got. We'll trade war stories after the podcast, but I've got my own share of injuries from dumb things that I've done, and so I feel your pain literally. Maybe not in the discs, but in other places for sure. And yeah, knowing that you got to go back to the drawing board doesn't feel good unless you're always at the drawing board and you're the one who's making the elegant drawings. You're the one who's saying like, I'm going to be doing this on a daily basis, and you eventually get to a point where you're like, man, I'm not waking up in pain anymore. I feel like I could race down any of the neighborhood kids. I could do like a random foot race, whatever it may be. Like, you're ready for whatever life throws at you. And again, at the risk of sounding hackneyed, if there's anything 2020, and by the looks of it, 2021 is teaching us, is that uh,
Yeah.
there are going to be a lot of things that happen that you cannot specifically prepare for, but you can still be prepared.
Yeah. Well said. Uh, Beautifully said.
Thank you. Now, I know that it's probably getting a bit late where you are in the great, what I guess you'd call it, the Great White North, Canada. I don't know if that's the actual nickname, but
There is a yes. I've heard Great White North a few times.
it's probably coming from further south, meaning, in the U.S., because I would imagine once you're in Canada, you're there. But
Well, there is a
but where now you mentioned that you do some coaching, and I'm curious, where do you have any page, like a website or Facebook or anything like that, where you chronicle your training and the training of some of the people that you train and things like that, so that people who want to be an awesome studly professional with a family and also possibly a secret agent, so that they can get some inspiration, where might they be able to find you?
okay. So if you're looking to get studly and strong and you're a busy professional, I would direct you to www.alexsalkin.com. I would, if you like what you see, I would go to my teacher, not to me.
Very
Right?
kind of you.
I generally refer, like, I have a few clients that I see on the side and a few people who enjoy the work I do. I chronicle some of the stuff on Instagram, 4D_strength, body, mind, soul, spirit. The idea that it's important to be strong in everything. And I have a website that I haven't really done much with, Josh Wang, 4dstrength.ca. But again, if you want to get strong, don't go there. Go get on the Hebrew Hammer Hideaway. Go, like, don't come say hi for sure. Like, find me on the Hebrew Hammer. Find me on Instagram. Follow me. I'll follow you. Like, let's be friends. But if you want some training, and if you like the training and some of the stories that we're talking about here, don't come to me. Reach out to this guy. You're gonna really, you're not gonna regret it. So.
I very much appreciate that. It's very kind of you. I can also vouch for 4D Strength being a great Instagram page. I find myself there quite often, and I'm not sandbagging. I mean that. He posts some really, really good content, and you got a hell of a courage corner too. We got a mini one up here with the bells and the clubs, but he's got a really cool, like, very, I would say elegant is the right word for it. A very elegant setup downstairs too. So what do we got here? And then we'll close out the show and we'll give our final notes. But this is a great. Tell us about the differences in the weights, because they're all the same size, but the people who are watching who may not know, what's the difference in the weight?
What you have here are a pair of 12 kilos, 16, and 20 and one 24. I have the rest of my bells downstairs, but I have a set of 8, anywhere to 24 for kettlebell sport. These are all designed in a way to be the same size but different weight, so that when you're doing a lift, a kettlebell sport lift, that you're learning the same technique, and when you go up or down in weight, you're not changing your technique. These are Indian clubs, mace, steel clubs, meals from a local wood turner. There's a gata here, down there. I think you can kind of see it, just from a friend in the States. So yeah, no, I like playing with various training tools. But,
Those are cool. I love the old school, anything old
yeah,
school training. You know, I'm a big fan, and
exactly.
I have yet to do much with club bells, but a friend of mine in Israel, David Ben Moshe,
Oh
he's like
yes,
he's a stud at this stuff, and he showed me a couple years ago. Like, I mean, he's like a phenom, and I was like, man, I'm just not gonna be able to keep up with that, but I can dream. He can do like these like really cool like patterns from the upper body while he's doing stuff with his lower body. It's like
yes.
extremely well coordinated. It's if I can't say much personally about Indian clubs because I've only used them on a few occasions, but I've really enjoyed what I've done. And so, do you have any recommendations for people who like Indian clubs where they might go?
100%. I do. If you are interested in Indian clubs, these are the lighter ones. 1 to 3 pounds is it's really great if you're doing any kind of like shoulder circles, because of the centrifugal force. It's going to help really accelerate your mobility work. If you're in Canada, agatsufitness.com, or CA, I don't know, Agatsu Fitness. They have some stuff. Great Lakes Geria has some stuff. I think there's a lot of other places down in the States that have some stuff. I'm not familiar, but look up Paul Wolkowinski or Kelly Manzoni. Those people are amazing inspirations for me. Zach Yannick, Hammurabi, Primal.6. Just basically find people, see what Kelly Manzoni, I think, would be a good starting point for all things original
Great.
strength
I know
and
Kelly actually.
clubs. Kelly's amazing. So if there's one name to remember, probably for this, I would say Kelly, Kells Bells 88 on Instagram.
I'm jealous of the name. That's a genius name.
It's genius. Yeah, I love it.
Kells Bells.
So
So good. You guys, you have some recommendations from the not at all a secret agent, Josh Wang. Those are finger quotes for those who couldn't see it. Um, yeah, busy dad, busy husband, busy engineer, but never too busy to get swole and jacked. And like I said, most importantly, to give his kids run for the money as he gets older. And I have no doubt that you will do exactly that. And I don't know if Facebook is going to exist in 20 years, but I certainly want to see the foot race between the two of you, where he's panting and you're giving him the good game, conciliatory speech afterward. So I'm going to keep my eyes out for it.
stay tuned in 19 years.
Yes, exactly. So, Josh, thank you very much once again for spending your evening with me and coming onto the program.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Huge fan.
Thank you very much. And folks, as always, have fun and happy training.